Hi, this is Elizabeth at craftsbyhappystamper.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you a very simple yet elegant card that I created for the Can You Case It Color Challenge this week, which is craft purple and white, or any neutral that you'd like. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I cut a craft card base. Actually, I'm using crumb cake as my craft cardstock, and I cut it at 8.5 by 5.5 and scored it at 4 1/4, just to make a traditional landscape card. Then I used the Rose Wonder die set and I cut the small rose out of both white cardstock, perfect plum, and elegant eggplant. And then I just added tape to that scrap piece of white cardstock you could see on the right, and I put the outline of the white rose down, and then I just paper pierced the elegant eggplant and the perfect plum pieces somewhat randomly. I tried to make one layer of the light purple and one layer of the dark purple and go from there, but it's still somewhat random. You could easily make two cards, just cut another outline with the white with the inside pieces. I zoomed in a little so you could see. You could see that there's lots of extra tape because I'm just using that scrap white to hold everything down, and so that I can easily slide the little pieces in. I don't have to worry about adding tiny dots of glue to the back of them. So I am using my tweezers to help me get the pieces in, but if you have a quick sticks pen, that would work just as well to pick up the little pieces. So I'm just putting in the last piece now. I'm trying to find it. There we go. So now I'll keep one of those purple outlines and I'll use that on the inside of the card. But after I paper pierced all the purples inside the small rose, I just used my paper snips to cut around the outline, which is extremely easy to do because you have two layers there. So now I'm going to make a sentiment for this card, and I'm using my embossing buddy on some scrap vellum, and I'm using the happy birthday sentiment from the Rose Wonder stamp set to stamp and Versamark on this vellum. I'm a little at the bottom of the camera there, almost off camera, but I'm just stamping happy birthday somewhat in the center of this scrap piece of vellum. I'm going to cut it down after I heat emboss to the right size, so that's why I did it somewhat in the center of the scrap piece. And now I'm just adding Whisper White embossing powder and shaking it off. I just dump my powder into those little containers so that it's easier for me to add the embossing powder to my projects. And now I'm warming up my heat tool. I'm not really sure why I didn't cut this part of the video out. I suppose you didn't need to see that. But I'm warming up the heat tool before I add it to the vellum. That way it's nice and hot and it melts quickly. If you don't do that first, there's nothing wrong with it, except it will cause your vellum to curl more than it will if it's really hot and it melts quickly when you bring the heat tool to the embossing powder. And as most of you know who have done heat embossing before, you can see it melting. It turns a brighter white. Now I'm just cutting down the extra, making it an even 1 inch thick, wide piece of vellum with a straight line. So I'm using my trimmer, and for some reason I'm off camera. I apologize for that. But you get the point. I just lined up the straight edge with the 1 inch mark and cut off the extra. So now I am trying to figure out the exact size that I need. And I'm just using my paper snips to randomly cut a straight edge on the side, and now I'm cutting a flag. You could use the triple banner punch for this. I'm not really sure why I didn't use it, except it was in the other room, and so it was just easier for me to cut a flag using my snips. But I decided that I wanted to decorate the crumb cake cardstock. I used crumb cake ink and inked up the hardwood background stamp, and I just laid the front of my card down and used my fingers to push it down and make sure it was relatively evenly covered. It doesn't actually matter for this card because it's sort of a rustic looking card for it if it's evenly stamped or not. But I decided my vellum was still a little too long, so I cut another flag in it. And now I'm just lining everything up. So To attach the vellum, I actually added tape to the back of the rose and then added the vellum to the back of the rose. And then I placed these dimensionals to pop up the rose, just to give it a little bit of extra something. Now, this is a extremely simple card. You can make it extremely fast. You can mass produce it easily. So in order to punch it up a little and give it something a little bit extra, I decided to use my Wink of Stella glitter brush pen and add glitter to my rose. Now you could be careful and just add it to the purple parts, because that's pretty much the only place it's going to show up very obviously anyways, but there I figured there was no need for me to be really careful, and I went over the white outline as well as the purple interior sections of the rose too. I don't think it matters. I think that it looks beautiful with that shimmer that you can see now. That I like the way the video is actually picking it up. Now, when I was pretty much finished with this card, except I decided that I wanted something a little bit more, and I was thinking candy dots might help decorate it. And if you watch my videos before, then you probably know that I like to just cut out 3 candy dots together and then move it around the card to see where I want them, where I think they'll look the best. And I decided to do 3 vertical ones in the upper left hand corner, so you see me adding them now with a paper piercer to it. And that's it. The card is done. I think that the extra shimmer on the rose really adds a lot to the card and punches it up to the next level, and it makes this card that's easily replicable look very stunning and rustic. So I hope you'll take the time to join me in this color challenge at the Can You Case It site. There's a link in the description, and if you want details on how I made this card as well as a link to the supplies list, please click on the blog post link in the description box. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Thank you.